Okay, stomach blood supply. Just quick overview, there's going to be 5 different arteries that supply blood to the stomach. So they all come off of the celiac plexus, the celiac artery. And so we're going to go through them one at a time, but I'm going to draw out the different sections, and then we're going to kind of color code them. So there's section 1, section 2, number 3, number 4, and I need one more color. Number 5. Hopefully the red doesn't get too confusing. So there's roughly where each of them goes to. So we have 3 different branches coming off of the descending aorta. When we hit the level of the celiac artery. Branch number 1, we'll say, boop, 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 is our left gastric artery. Just put an A. So that's going to supply the cardia and part of the lesser omentum of the stomach. Look at that, we're already done 1 of the 3. The rest of it's got to be just as easy, right? Not really, but that's okay. The left one is already done, 1 down, 4 to go. The second thing that comes off at the level of the cardiac artery is the common hepatic artery. So number 2 is the common hepatic artery. So obviously we know it's going to give probably a lot, or mainly, to the liver, since it's got hepatic in its name. But since we're talking about stomach, there must be a reason that I'm talking about it. And that's because the common hepatic also supplies a branch called the right gastric artery. So coming off of the common hepatic, we have the right gastric artery. And the right gastric artery is going to have anastomoses with the left gastric artery. And so it's just going to be a continuation of that blood supply. It's going to do part of the lesser omentum, and it's also going to do part of the duodenum. The common hepatic, though, also has another branch called the gastroduodenal artery. And the gastroduodenal artery has a branch that is called the right gastroepiploic artery. Now remember, epiploic basically means omental, so it means that it's going to an omentum somewhere. So the right gastroepiploic artery comes and supplies blood supply to part of the greater omentum, and it's going to form an anastomosis that we'll see a little bit later. So that's number 2. We've got the common hepatic that supplies the right gastric artery, which has anastomosis with the left gastric artery. And then it supplies the gastroduodenal artery, which has a branch called the right gastroepiploic artery, which supplies part of the duodenum and the greater omentum. The final branch coming off of the celiac artery, number 3 here, is the splenic. And I'm just going to draw an arrow over here. Splenic artery. Now the splenic artery obviously is going to have to be the one that picks up the slack and supplies 2 more of those sections. But it also supplies a few other things. Want to guess what one of them is? The spleen. Yeah, you're probably very right. It supplies branches going over to the spleen. So it's basically passing a bit behind the stomach. And you can remember what the splenic artery supplies with the sort of phrase, Peter's spleen looks small or short. So Peter's spleen looks small, tells us what's coming off. So number 1 is pancreatic. So there's a pancreatic artery that comes off and supplies the pancreas. Number 2 is the splenic. Number 3, and this is where we're getting into what we want, is the left gastroepiploic artery. And the left gastroepiploic artery is this purple bad boy here that's going to have anastomosis here with the right gastroepiploic artery. And then number 4 is the reason I say I like short here instead of small is because we have the short gastric artery. And so the short gastric artery, the little yellow one here, anastomosis with the left gastroepiploic, supplies the fundus of the stomach. And so there we have it. We have 5 different arteries that supply the stomach: the left and the right gastric, the left and the right gastroepiploic, and the short gastric artery. The left gastric comes straight off of the celiac artery as its own branch, and then the right gastric and the right gastroepiploic come off of the common hepatic artery as branches coming off of there. Then finally, the left gastroepiploic and the short gastric artery both come off as branches from the splenic artery.